All right. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join our application assistance workshop. If you're not speaking, please put your computer on mute. We get a little bit of feedback if you're not on mute. Perfect. And then anytime, if you have any questions during the presentation, go ahead and unmute and interrupt me. That's totally fine, and we'll get your questions answered. So my name is Jessica Tracy. Angie Fellows and I are consultants with Jacobs Engineering, and we've been helping Taylorsville with their CDBG program for the past couple of years, mainly doing the application process and the environmental reviews. We also have Jim Spunk, who is the new senior planner at Taylorsville. Amanda Roman and Angela Price have moved on. So we are now working with Jim Spung, and we also have Scott Harrington, who is the Chief Financial Officer. The purpose of this meeting, we're just going to go over the application timeline, some eligibility and expectations, and then an overview of the application process and using ZoomGrants. Before we begin with PY21, I just wanted to go over some COVID-19 stuff. Obviously, we're going through a global pandemic, and we are having our meetings virtually. As such, as we're living through this pandemic, we've been awarded HUD funds called CDBG CV that are used to help prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus. And these funds are separate from PY21 funds, and they're awarded separately and must meet some separate requirements. Taylorsville has started a small business relief grant for locally owned businesses, which will award up to $20,000 for payroll and lease assistance, PPE, social distancing equipment, etc. We're also planning a mortgage assistance program, which will be administered by the Community Development Corporation. If you'd like more information on what the city is doing, you can go ahead and check out the CDBG website, and we have some more information there. If your organization has an unmet need related to coronavirus in Taylorsville, go ahead and reach out to Jim Spung and I, and we can, see if that's something that we can use CDBG CV funds to help you with. Program year 2021 will begin July 1st and end June 30th of the following year. We typically receive about $350,000 in CDBG funds. This is our application timeline. Our needs hearing took place last Wednesday, and this hearing provided an opportunity for citizens and agencies to comment on current and future needs of the city. We use this input to help guide our funding determination process. The pre-application is open now and will be open until November 23rd, which is 2 weeks from today. And if your pre-application is approved, you'll be able to move forward with the full application, which will open on December 2nd and close January 15th. And following that, we'll have the mayor and city council review the applications during January and February. In March, we'll hold a public hearing, which will present the funding recommendations and PY21 annual action plan. The action plan outlines the projects funded for the year, as well as subrecipient goals, which are taken from your approved applications. Following the hearing, we'll have a 30-day comment period, and in May, the action plan will be submitted and final funding allocations will be awarded. After that, we'll start preparing the subrecipient contracts and any environmental reviews so that we can get the project started by July 1st. For those that are new to the CDBG program, I just wanted to run through some basic eligibility requirements. CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant, and its primary objective is to develop viable urban communities, particularly for low to moderate income persons, through decent housing, suitable living environments, and expanded economic opportunity. LMI is defined as extremely low to moderate income, or 30% of an area median income to 50% to 80%. There is a benefit requirement which states that 70% of all CDBG expenditures benefit low to moderate income persons. So your organization may serve people of all income levels, and that's fine. But when you are using awarded CDBG funds, 70% of your accomplishments or the people served should be in that threshold. CDBG projects should also meet one of the following national objectives. The first is low to moderate income benefit, which can be broken out into 4 subcategories. The first is area benefit. This is a project that would benefit all residents of an area, which is primarily residential. Some examples include street improvements, water or sewer lines, or facade improvements in neighborhoods, and so on. The limited clientele benefit would benefit a specific group of persons. So this can be children, seniors, victims of domestic violence, people with disabilities, unsheltered persons, etc. This objective can range from public services to construction or rehabilitation of senior centers or other limited clientele facilities. The housing objective would be met with activities that assist on the acquisition, construction, or improvement of permanent residential structures, including homeownership assistance or down payment. And the LMI jobs objective can be met 3 different ways. First, the activity could be located in a predominantly LMI neighborhood and serve LMI residents, sort of like a grocery store or a project related to that. The second would be an activity that involves facilities designed for use predominantly by LMI persons. This would be a good example of this would be a free clinic that serves patients on Medicaid or welfare. And the third option would be that the activity involves employment of majority LMI persons. The Salmon Bite Aid can be met by one of 3 subcategories. The area basis and urban renewal are based on city designated areas, which there are none currently existing within Taylorsville. So a spot basis is still eligible, and the activity meeting that benefit must be designed to eliminate specific conditions of blight not located in a designated slum area. So this objective must be limited to acquisition, clearance, relocation, historic preservation, or rehabilitation of buildings to eliminate specific conditions detrimental to public and health and safety. Urgent needs are benefits that would alleviate serious and immediate threats to health or welfare of the community. These conditions may be considered to be of recent origin if it is developed or became critical up to 18 months before the program year formally begins. So this could potentially include COVID-related projects. Here's an example list of some eligible activities, including housing and other real property activities, economic development, public facilities, public services, planning and administration. Ineligible activities include anything for the conduct of government, general government expenses, political activities, new housing constructions. This one has some exceptions, but for the most part is ineligible. Income payments are ineligible, purchase of equipment, and operating or maintenance expenses. Hard costs are projects that include some form of construction or rehabilitation. So when reviewing hard cost projects, the CDBG team will review the proportionate request per residence. For example, say you have a $50,000 HVAC project that you're requesting several grants from participating cities. You plan to serve 5 Taylorsville residents out of the total 50 people served, so the proportionate request would total $5,000 or $1,000 per residence. The Taylorsville Consolidated Plan has been updated for 2020 to 2024, so we have some new goals, and the needs, hearing, outcomes are also incorporated into the Taylorsville priorities. So let's take a look at some of the formally identified goals in the new Consolidated Plan. First, we have housing. In the past, we've partnered with Assist to provide housing rehabilitation for homeowners, and CDCU has provided down payment assistance. These are still eligible activities and align with our goals. Some other activities that you could do that would meet this goal could be increasing the number and types of housing units available and expanding housing support for aging residents. Public services can range from youth programs, health services, case management and counseling, or senior and disability transportation services. Public services are one of those items that are under that 15% cap. So as much as we'd like to fund every public service project that there is a limited number that we can support with the CDBG funds. Public facility improvements are projects that would serve the general public, so that can range from sidewalk to transportation to public building improvements. In the past year, this goal was met through capacity building and rehabilitation of the Taylorsville Senior Center. Homeless Homeless service activities may include support for regional or resource outreach and emergency services, as well as expanding case management to connect clients with permanent housing and supportive services. So that's a brief introduction to CDBG basics and our Taylorsville goals. We'll have the updated consolidated plan posted to the Taylorsville CDBG website, as well as the ZoomGrants library, hopefully by the end of the week. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions about eligibility or our new goals?
Yeah, I have a quick question. This is Jason with Assist. Under the housing activities, you mentioned that expanding or new types of housing was possibly an eligible activity. But then previously you said that we can't use CDBG funding for new construction. So I'm wondering if you guys have anything specific in mind with that activity.
Sure. Increasing the number and types of units available would specifically be, say that we are, I'm trying to think of a good example. Angie, do you have any examples at the top of your head? I know that housing is kind of a confusing, you know.
Right. So something that comes to mind is if, say, you're an agency that provides like transitional housing. And so if you're maybe acquiring additional properties, you know, that you provide that transitional housing in, that can potentially be available. So it really does depend specifically on how your project is defined. And so it can seem a little murky with these kind of high level summary statements, but that's one that comes to mind quickly is just, you know, you would be able to, you know, acquire properties, you know, if you have those already that you're providing transitional housing. That's one that I can think of. But yeah, it really depends on how you're defining your project.
I would say the new construction is kind of limited to, you know, new housing developments or luxury apartments. That's something that you wouldn't use CDBG funds for. Does anybody else have any questions? Alrighty, so we'll move on to the ZoomGrants process. We'll be using ZoomGrants for the pre-application, application, quarterly reporting, reimbursement requests, and contract preparation, as well as reference documents. This is a quick snapshot of the menu you'll see when you apply. The summary and pre-application tabs are open today until November 23rd. The CDBG application, funding sources and budget, and documents tabs are viewable, but you won't be able to upload or answers or content until your pre-application is approved and the application period formally opens on December 2nd. Some items to note for the full application: the funding source and budget line items are populated with common sources and uses, but are completely editable, so please change and customize these fields to whatever applies to your application. Requested funds are other grants and awards that you have or you plan to apply for, but final decisions haven't yet been determined, while awarded funds are any funds that have been formally committed to the project you are applying for. The document tab has a list of requested documents depending on your project type, and templates are available to download, including an ADA questionnaire, Section 504, and the FFATA checklist. These documents are going to be required for contract preparation and are highlighted if they are required, and they must be submitted with your full application, even if it's already been submitted in previous years. And just note that one of the CDBG team members may reach out if we need additional information from you. Here are some sample application questions from the full application. The first is, does your agency plan to have separate staff members to manage or administer the project? So CDBG processes and management are subject to review during monitorings. While a separate dedicated CDBG team is not necessarily required, having a specific staff members to contact for reporting, invoicing, or contract needs is incredibly helpful to CDBG staff and promotes success for your program. And monitorings happen on about a yearly basis, depending on the risk of the project if you're a new subrecipient. occur more often, but we'll get into that in the next slide. Does your organization track demographics and income information for your clients? So if the answer is no, we're going to need to develop some kind of a client intake form. The city reports accomplishments to HUD each quarter. So identifying the demographics and income of people served identifies gaps in service and ensures that we are meeting that LMI eligibility. The project and program addresses, this is where your project or program will actually take place. If you will serve a variety of areas, for example, you're doing a Meals on Wheels project or some housing rehab and you don't know the areas that you'll be serving quite yet, you can just provide the address where the program administration will take place and then what area will be eligible for your project's activities. So if that's just the boundary of Taylorsville or Salt Lake County or the whole state of Utah, etc. Geographic areas to be served. Will your activity serve only Taylorsville residents or is it open to the general public within Salt Lake County? And then total Taylorsville residents to be served. Out of all those people that your activity plans to serve, how many do you estimate will actually be Taylorsville residents? And this is something that will help us determine if there is a proportionate request per resident served. Some of our expectations, if your program is selected for the 2021 program year, there's some expectations to be aware of. First, monitorings are scheduled on a yearly basis depending on the risk level of your project. So as I said, new subrecipients may be subject for additional monitorings to ensure that there are proper processes in place and tracking to comply with HUD and CDBG requirements. Reporting based on people served, including their demographics and income, will be submitted 30 days after each quarter ends. And reimbursement requests should be submitted with any supporting documentation. So that can include payroll, construction or rehabilitation invoices, receipts, etc. The last reimbursement request of the year should be submitted as soon as possible after June 30th so that we can close out our program year in a timely manner and begin preparing our end of year report. So that's about everything. I'd like to open it up to any questions regarding the application and any others that we missed earlier.
This is Peggy from South Valley Services.
Hi, Peggy.
Is the homeless services going to be available under the CDBG, or do you have a separate ESG fund that you're taking those out of?
Those will be available under CDBG. That's actually one of our con plan goals. So you can apply for it with CDBG. If anybody else has any questions, go ahead and ask. I just wanted to bring up our contact page. Jim Spung is the one that you'll contact if you have any city-related questions, and I can help with any application questions or any problems with ZoomGrants.
Jess, I just wanted to pipe in here real quick and just while we have the contact information up, just remind people that we definitely don't hesitate to reach out as you're completing your pre-application or the application itself. It's not something that has a hard line where you can't be talking to us while you are completing these applications. And so we're here to help and talk through any questions you may have, if it's, you know, how to describe your program, or if it's about eligibility or anything that you come across while you're in these applications. We definitely would suggest that you reach out with any questions at all, because we can definitely provide some input and help as you're completing those.
Thanks, Angie. That's a good point. Does anybody else have any questions? Well, I plan to send out the pre-application link today to everybody that's been a part of the meeting, and we also plan to have this recording available and put on the Taylorsville website or emailed directly to you. So if you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out. No question's a dumb question. And yeah, good luck, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to our tech assistance workshop.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.